Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, the White House approves sending humanitarian aid to Iraq.
Also ahead, proponents want San Diego's mayor to pick up the pace on the city's climate action plan. I'm Peggy Pica with a look at both sides of the issue. Plus, when fall classes begin at SDSU, music students will get to be part of the first of its kind program for musical entrepreneurship.
And we have President Obama speaking at the White House at this hour about the crisis in Iraq. We go to that now.
Let me explain the actions we're taking and why. First, I said in June, as the terrorist group ISIL began an advance across Iraq, that the United States would be prepared to take targeted military action in Iraq if and when we determined that the situation required it. In recent days, these terrorists have continued to move across Iraq and have neared the city of Erbil, where American diplomats and civilians serve at our consulate and American military personnel advise Iraqi forces. To stop the advance on Erbil, I've directed our military to take targeted strikes against ISIL terrorist convoys should they move toward the city. We intend to stay vigilant and take action if these terrorist forces threaten our personnel or facilities anywhere in Iraq, including our consulate in Erbil and our embassy in Baghdad. We're also providing urgent assistance to Iraqi government and Kurdish forces so they can more effectively wage the fight against ISIL. Second, at the request of the Iraqi government, we've begun operations to help save Iraqi civilians stranded on the mountain. As ISIL has marched across Iraq, it has waged a ruthless campaign against innocent Iraqis. And these terrorists have been especially barbaric towards religious minorities, including Christian and Yazidis, a small and ancient religious sect. Countless Iraqis have been displaced, and chilling reports describe ISIL militants rounding up families, conducting mass executions, and enslaving Yazidi women. In recent days, Yazidi women, men, and children from the area of Sinjar have fled for their lives. And thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, are now hiding high up on the mountain with little but the clothes on their backs. They're without food, they're without water, people are starving, and children are dying of thirst. Meanwhile, ISIL forces below have called for the systematic destruction of the entire Yazidi people, which would constitute genocide. So these innocent families are faced with a horrible choice: descend the mountain and be slaughtered, or stay and slowly die of thirst and hunger. Now, I've said before, the United States cannot and should not intervene every time there's a crisis in the world. So let me be clear about why we must act and act now. When we face a situation like we do on that mountain, with innocent people facing the prospect of violence on a horrific scale, when we have a mandate to help, in this case a request from the Iraqi government, and when we have the unique capabilities to help avert a massacre, then I believe the United States of America cannot turn a blind eye. We can act carefully and responsibly to prevent a potential act of genocide. That's what we're doing on that mountain. I've therefore authorized targeted airstrikes, if necessary, to help forces in Iraq as they fight to break the siege of Mount Sinjar and protect the civilians trapped there. Already, American aircraft have begun conducting humanitarian airdrops of food and water to help these desperate men, women, and children survive. Earlier this week, one Iraqi in the area cried to the world, "There is no one coming to help." Well, today America is coming to help. We're also consulting with other countries and the United Nations, who have called for action to address this humanitarian crisis. I know that many of you are rightly concerned about any American military action in Iraq, even limited strikes like these. I understand that. I ran for this office in part to end our war in Iraq and welcome our troops home, and that's what we've done. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not allow the United States to be dragged into fighting another war in Iraq. And so even as we support Iraqis as they take the fight to these terrorists, American combat troops will not be returning to fight in Iraq, because there is no American military solution to the larger crisis in Iraq. The only lasting solution is reconciliation among Iraqi communities and stronger Iraqi security forces. However, we can and should support moderate forces who can bring stability to Iraq. So even as we carry out these two missions, we will continue to pursue a broader strategy that empowers Iraqis to confront this crisis. Iraqi leaders need to come together and forge a new government that represents the legitimate interests of all Iraqis, and that can fight back against the threats like ISIL. Iraqis have named a new president, a new Speaker of Parliament, and are seeking consensus on a new Prime Minister. This is the progress that needs to continue in order to reverse the momentum of the terrorists who prey on Iraq's divisions. Once Iraq has a new government, the United States will work with it and other countries in the region to provide increased support to deal with this humanitarian crisis and counterterrorism challenge. None of Iraq's neighbors have an interest in this terrible suffering or instability, and so we'll continue to work with our friends and allies to help refugees get the shelter and food and water they so desperately need, and to help Iraqis push back against ISIL. The several hundred American advisors that I ordered to Iraq will continue to assess what more we can do to help train, advise, and support Iraqi forces going forward. And just as I consulted Congress on the decisions I made today, we will continue to do so going forward. My fellow Americans, the world is confronted by many challenges, and while America has never been able to right every wrong, America has made the world a more secure and prosperous place. And our leadership is necessary to underwrite the global security and prosperity that our children and our grandchildren will depend on. We do so by adhering to a set of core principles. We do whatever is necessary to protect our people. We support our allies when they're in danger. We lead coalitions of countries to uphold international norms. And we strive to stay true to the fundamental values, the desire to live with basic freedom and dignity that is common to human beings wherever they are. That's why people all over the world look to the United States of America to lead. And that's why we do. So let me close by assuring you that there is no decision that I take more seriously than the use of military force. Over the last several years, we have brought the vast majority of our troops home from Iraq and Afghanistan, and I have been careful to resist calls to turn time and again to our military, because America has other tools in our arsenal than our military. We can also lead with the power of our diplomacy, our economy, and our ideals. But when the lives of American citizens are at risk, we will take action. That's my responsibility as Commander-in-Chief. And when many thousands of innocent civilians are faced with the danger of being wiped out, and we have the capacity to do something about it, we will take action. That is our responsibility as Americans. That's a hallmark of American leadership. That's who we are. So tonight we give thanks to our men and women in uniform, especially our brave pilots and crews over Iraq, who are protecting our fellow Americans and saving the lives of so many men, women, and children that they will never meet. They represent American leadership at its best. As a nation, we should be proud of them and of our country's enduring commitment to uphold our own security and the dignity of our fellow human beings. God bless our armed forces, and God bless the United States of America.
President Obama speaking live from the White House this evening. He has ordered limited airstrikes on militants who gained a stronghold in the Kurdish city of Erbil, where the U.S. has a diplomatic consulate as well as a military operations center. The president said reluctantly these airstrikes do mark a significant shift in Iraq since troops pulled out in 2011. Now, the president also signed earlier today the $16 billion VA reform bill into law. He says the bipartisan measure addresses systematic problems at VA hospitals, including long delays for care being covered up by VA staff. The bill includes funding to hire more doctors, nurses, and staff at the VA's nearly 1,000 hospitals and clinics.
This bill covers a lot of ground, from expanding survivor benefits and educational opportunities to improving care for veterans struggling with traumatic brain injury and for victims of sexual assault.
Congress approved the VA bill last week before adjourning for a 5-week recess. And San Diego City Council met today before adjourning for its August recess, but took no action on whether to appeal a court ruling halting the expansion of the downtown convention center. And they also postponed voting on the city's climate action plan. The council did ratify, however, labor agreements to implement San Diego Works. That's the mayor's plan to award public employees who bring forth money-saving ideas. Council is set to return in a month. And Peggy Pico has more about the city's proposed climate action plan.
Mayor Faulkner has said he supports the city's climate change plan with some changes. But some local business leaders and realtors argue the plan is too aggressive and would damage the city's economy. Here with a closer look at both sides of the issue are my guest, Kayla Race with the Environmental Health Coalition, and Leslie Kilpatrick, board president of the San Diego Association of Realtors. Welcome.
Thanks.
Now, Kayla, you're on the city's Economic and Environmental Sustainability Task Force that helped develop this climate plan. What are the main goals of this plan?
The main goals of the plan outline ways to reduce greenhouse gases over the next 20 years. And some of the examples are getting to 100% clean energy by 2035, as well as increasing our infrastructure for walking and biking and making our neighborhoods safer for those kinds of activities, as well as transit, and making our buildings more efficient. So it's really a comprehensive strategy to reduce pollution and improve San Diegans' quality of life.
And you touched a little bit on this, but are there particular ways to reach these goals that are pretty detailed as far as trying to reach those goals you just named?
Yeah, the plan outlines strategies to reach those goals, including exploring other ways to increase renewable energy in San Diego, ways to fund more bicycling and walking infrastructure and public transit, as well as ways to make our homes and our buildings more efficient.
Now, Leslie, your organization is part of a coalition of businesses that oppose parts of this plan. What are the key reasons for the opposition?
Well, our specific concern are the point-of-sale mandates, requiring people to complete expensive energy efficiency audits and improvements on their homes in order to be able to sell them.
What changes would need to be made to get the opposition to this plan and be able to move forward on it?
In our case, we would like the point-of-sale mandates to be completely removed from the plan.
And do you have any suggestions as for what you would put in their place?
We do. We have a government affairs team that is working on suggestions to bring to their attention, but those include incentives and special financing for people to all throughout the city to improve their homes and not to just target people who need to sell their homes.
Now, Kayla, how do you respond to that? Clearly, people, we have some restrictions already on home sales. You have to termite your home before you sell it. Is there a way to maybe compromise on that particular issue, since it seems to be a sticking point?
Well, we think that the plan is comprehensive, and energy efficiency is one of the pieces that the plan should continue to address. There are low-income people who live in very inefficient old homes in San Diego, and making those homes more efficient will save them money in the long run. But we should also keep in mind that this is just one component of the plan, and we also want to see more clean energy, more public transit, and we were happy to hear support for those other aspects of the plan as well.
Do you think the city is open to a compromise on this plan as far as maybe changing this up a little bit? Let's talk about the homes in particular, maybe offering some incentives.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, incentives are part of the plan. The city's financing program for energy efficiency and renewable energy upgrades is a part of the plan, and those programs are actually already starting to be implemented now. So certainly we want to see that be a part of the plan. But as far as compromise, we already saw a great plan produced in February under Council President Todd Gloria that had a lot of support, and we think that this is outlining what needs to be done, and we need to avoid further costs in the future that climate change will impose.
Now, Leslie, how would the Realtors Board and opposing business leaders, how would they address these climate change issues? Do you have a plan that you're going to present to the City Council or to the Mayor?
No, we are in support of this plan, just making some changes to it. And I can't help but say this, but termite clearance is not required to sell a home.
Anymore. See, I'm dating myself. It used to be when I lived in LA.
No, we would like to work together. We'd like a seat at the table so that this plan can move forward with some changes. And the primary objection we have is the point-of-sale mandate that puts an unfair burden on the folks that absolutely need to sell. People like to talk about the market and statistics, but the truth is the people you sit across the kitchen table from are people who have to sell because their lives are in transition. And a lot of those transitions are financial pressures.
And Kayla, why does San Diego need a climate action plan when the state already has a carbon reduction plan and there's other regional climate plans?
Right. Well, the state sets some overall greenhouse gas reduction goals for the state, and it leaves it up to the local jurisdictions to meet part of those goals. And so it's up to us in San Diego to do our part to address climate change. And, you know, as you know, we've already seen some of these impacts, like the recent drought, the recent wildfires, poor air quality. San Diegans are already feeling these impacts, and it's really past time to act because it's already impacting our economy and our health and our safety.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about this in the near future. Kayla Reyes and Leslie Kilpatrick, thank you so much.
Thank you.
A statewide jobs program for parolees is expanding to San Diego. The county, Caltrans, and the Center for Employment Opportunities are teaming up to give parolees jobs clearing litter off highways. The jobs will provide a springboard to full-time employment.
And this work is a means to an end. At the end of every shift, they get a paycheck, they get constructive feedback from their supervisors, and they're learning the basic skills that employers value that will help them find full-time, permanent jobs.
Over 1,300 parolees from 7 counties in California have participated in the program since it began in 2009. Southwestern Community College has a brand new football field and athletics building. KPBS education reporter Matt Bowler says there is more to the new facility than meets the eye.
Schools love to show off their new buildings.
This is where we all want to be.
And this one is nice. The $25 million it cost came from a $389 million bond measure passed in 2008. It has teachers' offices, classrooms, a fitness center, and a locker room that opens onto a brand new football field. They say there are aspects of this building that have
no impact on the environment.
And they are submitting it for what's called the LEED Gold certification. It's given out by the U.S. Green Building Council and means that during development, they did everything they could to minimize its environmental footprint. There are 4 levels: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Melinda Nash, superintendent of Southwestern, says it's even more impressive when you hear about the construction budget.
And we're very pleased that on a LEED Silver budget, we were able to design and build smart, and we're able to come in now with a LEED Gold certification for this building.
Southwestern's Mark Clausen says because the new football field is made of artificial turf, it'll be a huge water saver.
Now, this field just by itself is going to save in the neighborhood of 1 million gallons.
It even has its own underground cooling system that uses water to wick away the heat. Coach Ed Carberry says his team is lucky to play here.
This is the best facility, and it's a Division I athletic facility at a 2-year college.
The college's new facilities are the start of an expansion boom at Southwestern. They've got 4 more in the works. Matt Bowler, KPBS News.
By the way, the Fieldhouse building will be open for the first day of school on August 18th. A medical specialist at UC San Diego is a pioneer in using 3D imaging
tools. It's a team sport. And for today's operation at UC San Diego Medical Center in Hillcrest, Dr. Clark Chen has 10 people on his team. But one of the most crucial players isn't a doctor, nurse, or technician. It's the MRI machine. Chen will rely on this machine and some special software to guide him every step of the way. In the weeks leading up to the surgery, Chen used state-of-the-art imaging tools to help devise his plan of attack on the brain tumor. And now it's showtime. The patient, 52-year-old Michelle Carpinelli, has been put under, and a small hole has been drilled in her skull. Special instruments are mounted on her head to make sure Chen stays on the right path.
And this is exactly where we made the skin incision. And in fact, what we could then also see is to see this in 3 dimensions, looking at the MRIs superimposed onto the tumor.
With conventional surgery, the neurosurgeon calculates where he's supposed to be in the brain, and the equipment guides him there. But he doesn't know precisely where he is. In contrast, the brain scans help Chen get to the right spot with sub-millimeter accuracy.
With a real-time MRI, you could actually see the needle physically in the tumor, which is not something that is doable with the conventional surgery.
Chen inserts the biopsy needle into Carpinelli's brain.
Right in the center, right where we want to be.
Scans show he's right on target. Chen extracts a couple of samples from the tumor.
Send up for path, please. Okay. I'm going to take one more for permanent. we're getting 2 specimens, and we sent them now for pathology analysis. And now we're getting a scan to make sure that at the site of the biopsy, that no harm is done. Hey, Peter.
Hey, Dr. Chen.
How's it look?
A few minutes later, the pathologist calls. He tells Chen the first sample was inconclusive for cancer.
You may want to consider giving us another piece for purpose.
Well, we're smack in the center of it based on the MRI, so take a look at the second one and see.
Okay, we'll let you know.
Okay.
The second sample comes back as inconclusive too. So Chen goes back in the operating room and extracts some other pieces of the tumor for the pathologist. These samples eventually confirm what Chen suspected all along. The tumor is malignant. Now it's time to destroy it. But first, Chen tests a flexible laser probe to make sure it's working properly.
We're now slowly inserting.
Then he slowly inserts it into Carpinelli's brain.
I feel now a very firm area. I know that's the tumor.
This is a critical moment. Chen and his team do another brain scan to confirm that the laser is in exactly the right spot. It's all systems go.
Activating.
From the control room, Chen fires up the laser with a foot pedal. Using what's called MRI thermography, Chen monitors the temperature within the tumor. Chen carefully controls the laser to make sure it's not heating up other parts of the brain adjacent to the tumor. After about 5 minutes, Chen gives the word.
Okay, I think we're good. It means that the entire tumor has been destroyed.
A final scan tells the tale.
So at the end of the surgery, we were able to visualize whether or not there's any harms related to the surgery, which there isn't, and we're also able to visualize that we've destroyed the entire tumor.
The team wheels Carpinelli out of the operating room and begins to wake her up.
Can you wiggle your toes, dear? All
There
right.
you go.
Good. Michelle, you're awesome. Good job.
Perhaps the most amazing thing about the surgery is Carpinelli will get to go home the next day. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
Amazing indeed. That video was shot by Richard Klein and edited by Katie Shula. For more information or to see part 1 of the series, go to kpbs.org. The Ocean Beach Playhouse has been serving up theater, film, and music for the past 4 years. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando looks at their first standalone art show, Angels, Aliens, and Drag Queens.
Hang on. I knew I had tassels somewhere.
It's hard to get Lynn Bolton to sit still.
Then I started painting my house.
But maybe that's because she's putting on an art show this Saturday and trying to finish her own work for the exhibit.
Poor Lizette's probably going to get a staple right through her head here. Originally, a lot of these were done for the San Diego Fringe Festival. And because it was just a thoroughfare for buying tickets, my husband suggested that we have a proper art show at our art center in Ocean Beach. And it's a 2,000 square foot space, and it attaches to our hair salon called the Electric Chair. So we will be incorporating the entire building as part of the art show because our folk art and outsider art gallery already exists within the hair salon. And I was trying to think of something clever and catchy that encompassed all of us in the group. There's a group of artists who are showing. And so I named it Angels, Aliens, and Drag Queens. One of the other artists is named Jessie Bedell. She does 3-dimensional rock star paintings. You'll see all my girls. Lizette, she's not finished yet, so don't judge her. We've got Beatrice, who's missing her tassels, and Astro Amy over here. So the angel is not complete. He will be, I promise, by Saturday.
And he'll be joined by aliens and drag queens. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Angels, Aliens, and Drag Queens takes place Saturday night at 6:30 at the Ocean Beach Playhouse. Slightly cooler weather, slightly cooler than normal for us this time of year. We'll see the morning clouds return, then sunshine by afternoon along the coast. Temperatures in the upper 70s through Saturday at least. A bit warmer for the inland valleys with a mix of sun and some high clouds, mostly in the low 80s. Sunny in the mountains, temperatures in the low 80s before dipping into the 60s at night. And not much change for the desert. Clear, sunny, temperatures well above 100. Quick update. President Obama spoke tonight from the White House saying he has authorized U.S. military to launch targeted airstrikes if Islamic militants advance toward American personnel in northern Iraq. He also has announced the military carried out airdrops of humanitarian aid today to Iraqi religious minorities threatened by the extremists. Obama says, quote, "Today America is coming to help marking the deepest American engagement in Iraq since the U.S. troops withdrew in late 2011 after nearly a decade of war." We'll stay on top of this story. You can find more on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.